he kind of accepted that they're going to do the simultaneous Guru Puja thing. He was also trying not to intrude, not to try to control, suggesting practical suggestions. You know what he practically suggested was of gurus. So he told that they can say the names of the disciples of Prabhupada who are acting as guru. And suppose, like he was telling, like suppose in Mayapur, where there's a lot of disciples who have come, and all of their gurus are, he said, Vyasa-sans, Vyasa-sans. From the mountains to the sea, Vyasa-sans.
Pretty soon there wouldn't be any room for devotees.
Every time
That's very poetic.
stadium.
That's poetic.
Yeah, but it was like ludicrous. You know, it's ludicrous. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj told them, he said, one way that it can be adjusted is that they are saying the names of the God brothers, you know. And each section of the room, when their guru's name is told, then they can say Jai. He said, but then, and the others, like the God brothers, they don't have to say Jai, right? So then, but then when it comes to Srila Swami Maharaj, then there can be one big concerted Jai. Some of the topmost personalities. It's almost impossible to say topmost because they're all top. But then there's the topmost of the topmost, and then there's the the modern terminology, the 1% of the 1%. But we're referring to the real 1% of the 1%. Okay. So Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami Pad, his transcendental disappearance today. And I thought we will chant Jai Anilo Prema Dhana. What?
There's no index in this one.
99. I already said it. So, are you familiar with this song? Mm-hmm. You know the meaning?
Not by memory.
Okay. So you can read the first verse.
He who brought the treasure of prem out of his great compassion, where is such a venerable personality as Sri Srinivasacharya gone?
So now, in the song, it says, Heno Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur. Sometimes it's called Acharya Thakur. But Srinivasacharya is also called Acharya Thakur. And he was like god brother of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. And his feelings of extreme separation from, they were so close. That's why we say Prabhu Trai. You have to add that to your Jai Dhwani. It's not only Narottam. Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Trai Ki Jai. Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Trai Ki Jai. Prabhu Trai. They're the three Prabhus. Jai Anilo Prema Dhana Karuna Prachur. This is why in the previous interpretation it was Advaita Acharya, because he who brought Mahaprabhu down. But in this context also it means Srinivasacharya. Prema Dhana, the treasure, the wealth of prem, Prem Dhana. Karuna Prachur, who was so full of compassion. Heno Prabhu Kota Gila Acharya Thakur. Where there's such a venerable personality. Patita Pavan, they are all the saviors of the fallen souls. Kahamor Bhatta Juga, where is my Gopal Raghunath Bhatta Goswami? Bhatta Juga means the two Bhattas. Kaha Kaviraj, where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Eka Kale Kota Gela Gora Nataraj. And then he says, where has Gauranga, the king of dancers? Pashani Kutibo Mata Anale Pashibo. So here he's saying, upon a association of that, Sri Srinivasacharya. Pastimes of Mahaprabhu. Say sub Sangir Sange, Jay Koilo Vilas. Jay means Srinivasacharya. Perform pastimes with all of those divine personalities, the associates of Mahaprabhu. Say Sangana Paya Madhana. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radhe, Hari Bol, Hari Hari Bol. Srila Gopala Bhakta Goswami Pada. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Eko Vaishnava Pada Madhyayaman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Padma Koriyash Nam Sankirtan Kori Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaura Tise Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So now we're reading Volume 2 of the Associates of Sri Chaitanya, written by Nityalila Pravishto Vishnupad Srila Goswami Maharaj. And we're reading the section on Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami. He is first of all quoting from Gaur Ganodesha Deepika. You know what is Gaur Ganodesha Deepika? A book.
It's a book that contains all the names of the associates of Lord Chaitanya and their
Yes. Who's written it?
Vaishnav Thakur.
Yes, Kavi Karnapur. Who is the son of who? Shivananda Sen. He is the son of Shivananda Sen. So, he's an eternal associate, and he's revealing the identities of all of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sri Gunamanjari. She who was formerly Ananga Manjari has appeared to enrich as Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami. Some say that Gopal Bhatta is actually Guna Manjari. So this is two different identities here. That Ananga Manjari and Guna Manjari. So Srila Gopala Bhatta Goswami appeared in 1500 AD. Do the math.
14 years after Mahaprabhu.
No, yeah, 14 years after. But I was thinking of how many years ago. 1500 and up to 2000. 520, right. 520. And you said 14 years after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, so when Mahaprabhu took sannyas, he was 24 years old. And then within a short time, we're not sure exactly, maybe it was his first year, because he toured South India for 2 years throughout all of these different biographies. Because this is accepted as praman evidence. So according to Narahari, in the Bhakti, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami was given a vision in a dream by Mahaprabhu, in which he was fortunate enough to witness all of the Lord's Navadvip pastimes. An eternal associate of Krishna, he appeared in a faraway place in order to participate in Lord Gauranga's pastime, Mahaprabhu. Having said this to Gopal, the Lord embraced him and drenched him in his tears. He then told him, this is actually the verse from the Bhakti Ratnakara. It doesn't have the Bengali, but having said this to Gopal, the Lord embraced him and drenched him in his tears. He then told him to keep all these experiences secret, and Gopal felt great joy in his mind. Next section is the Lord's teachings to Gopal's father. Who is Gopal Bhatta Goswami's father? Venkata Bhatta. Who are his two brothers?
Prabhupada Saraswati, formerly Gopal Guru, I think.
What? Gopal Guru? What did you say?
Well, formerly he was
Who was?
Gopal Guru, Prabhupada Saraswati.
Gopal Guru.
That's what you read just a week ago, a couple of days ago.
That he was Gopal Guru.
Not Gopal Guru Goswami, just Gopal Guru.
I don't think that's accurate. We'll have to look that up again.
Either way, his uncle was Prabhupada Saraswati.
Yes. The other brother was Srimala Bhatta Tirumalai. So In 1510, Mahaprabhu made his auspicious appearance in the pilgrimage city of Sri Rangam. Yeah, so when he's 24 years old. He was invited by Venkatabhatta to spend the 4 months of the Chaturmasya in his house. Knowing him to be a strict Vaishnava, Mahaprabhu accepted his invitation. In fact, the Lord and staying at Venkatabhatta's home was to give his mercy to Gopal Bhatta and his family. For the Lord knew that Gopal, his eternal companion, had appeared there. At this time, Gopal Bhatta was still young. He was fortunate enough to be able to serve the Lord by massaging his feet. Even though he was satisfied with Venkatabhatta and his family's service, the Lord observed that Venkata had an element of pride in his object of worship. Who is his object of worship? Yes. So he believed that his worshipable deity, Lakshmi Narayan, was the supreme worshipable object, and that Narayan was the source of all other incarnations, including Krishna, Rama, and Nrsimha. His reasoning was that Narayan is never born, he is Aja. Ram take birth in the world. Prabhu worships Krishna, the incarnation of Narayan, while we worship Narayan, all incarnations. They still have that misconception in India. So, Madhusudan is the destroyer of false pride. Krishna's name. Destroyer of false pride. And finally, Mahaprabhu tone.
Jousting.
Oh,
Debate.
yeah, banter. Okay. So he asked him in a bantering tone, I hear that no one is equal in opulence to your Lord Narayan. The same is true for your worshipable goddess Lakshmi Devi. On the other hand, the object of my worship, Krishna, he has no opulences of any kind. He wears garlands of wild forest flowers, peacock feathers for decoration. He is the son of Nanda Gopa, spends cows with the other cowherd boys. Oh, my worshipable goddesses, the gopis, are nothing but poor cowherd girls. So I wonder, therefore, why your worshipable Lakshmi Devi the hope of gaining in the rasa dance. So, he's really put him on the spot, hasn't he? So Venkata immediately answered, what's wrong with that? Radha's beloved Krishna is none different from Lakshmi Devi's husband, Narayan. And then he quoted a verse. Well, a verse is quoted here. Siddhantatas tvabedepi Shrisha Krishna Swarupayo Rasenot Krishyate Krishna Rupam Esha Rasastiti. Yes. So this verse is translated, though according to theological doctrine, Krishna and the husband of Lakshmi are identical in essence. But the form of Krishna is superior when analyzed from the point of view of rasa, divine sentiment. This is the conclusion based on the analysis of rasa. So, what's this verse telling? Why is Venkatapata quoting this verse when he said, what's wrong with Lakshmi Devi being with her own husband in the form of Krishna? He's analyzing that Lord Narayan and Krishna are one according to Siddhanta. Because it says Siddhanta tas tvavede, abede pi. That means abede means non-different. So from Siddhanta, they are non-different. Shrisha Krishna Swarupayo. Shrisha means Shri Isha, means the Isha of Shri, Lakshmi Devi. And Krishna Swarup means Krishna. So from the viewpoint of Siddhanta, they're identical. But rasein not krishyate Krishna Krishna rupam rasastiti. But from the viewpoint of rasa, Krishna is far superior. Far superior. Krishna rupam rasastiti. So, now, after quoting this verse, then he says, Venkata is still trying to answer Mahaprabhu's challenging question. And he says, since the divine sentiment in Krishna is superior, meaning rasa, they're using the term divine sentiment in this translation here. So, since this rasa and divine sentiment in Krishna is superior, there is no fault if Lakshmi Devi chooses to seek his association and performs austerities to that end. So he thinks now, Venkata, that he's given a substantial response to Mahaprabhu, which should put this question to rest. Yes. So then Mahaprabhu answered, I am not saying that there is any fault. I agree that from the transcendental point of view, Krishna and Narayan are identical. The difference between them is based on an analysis of sacred rapture. Again, rasa. Rasa vichar. And when the Lord performs pastimes of opulence, he is Narayan. And when he performs pastimes of sweetness, he is Krishna. So she, who is Radha in Krishna's pastimes, is Lakshmi in the pastimes of Narayan. So thus, when Lakshmi performs austerities to have the association of Krishna, there is no question of her breaking her vows of fidelity to her husband. So thus, she went to perform these austerities in Vrindavan. But then Mahaprabhu says, but I have another question for you. Why, even after trying so hard, through such penances, etc., to enter Krishna's Ras Leela, why was Lakshmi still unable to do so? So now Venkatapata was terribly distressed at being unable to give the Lord an answer. So Mahaprabhu observed his distress, and then he tried to pacify him by saying, you yourself said that Narayan and Krishna are identical from the theological point of view, but that the superiority of Krishna is determined by an analysis of the divine sentiments of rasa. So Narayan is involved in 2.5 of the 5 principal rasas, whereas Krishna is experienced through the complete of all 12 rasas. That means the 5 principal and the 7 secondary sentiments. So since Narayan's Leela is primarily one of opulence and majesty, his principal who also worships him in the appropriate mood of awe and reverence. Now the same Lakshmi Devi is Radhika in order to heighten the experience of romantic love. Unless one follows in the footsteps of Radha and her expansions, the gopis, who are the repositories of the erotic sentiment, then it is impossible to relish Krishna's sweet qualities. That is, those virtues which are particularly inspiring mood of love. So, what are Krishna's sweet qualities? Because he's telling, Mahaprabhu is telling to Venkatavata that Lord Narayan is only interacted with in 2.5 rasas. What are those 2.5 rasas?
Adoration, servitorship, and half of friendship.
Yes. Shantaras, Dasyaras. In Vaikuntha, everyone is in Dasyaras mood. And also, for those who have some closer relationship, they can have a half of a ras of Sakya, friendship. Only half. Not like Krishna's cowherd boys who can play with him and jump on his shoulders and do all kinds of things that are only done out of extreme intimacy, because for Lord Narayan it's not possible, because he's the absolute supreme personality of Godhead and everyone is fully conscious of that. Right? So there's no possibility. And even Srila, Hanuman is in Dasya. And can Hanuman embrace Lord Ram? Hanuman cannot just go and embrace Ram. Why? Because he's my master. He cannot just embrace Lord Ram. Ram can embrace him, but you know, he cannot act like. So Mahaprabhu is, he's somewhat soothing Venkatapata's frustration of not being able to answer, and he's explaining to him that it is true that actually Lakshmi Devi in Krishna's Leela is Radha, the same personality, right? But he's setting the stage, actually, Mahaprabhu is setting the stage here by his explanation for a complete revolution of their moods and feelings. And he's beginning to present to these devotees that in actuality Krishna is the supreme worshipable object of all, even including Lord Narayan. He also worships Krishna. And Krishna is also the ultimate source of all. By Siddhanta, by Tattva Siddhanta, Krishna and Narayan are the same personality, they're equal. But by Rasa, Krishna is far superior. So this is what Mahaprabhu is now explaining. And he's explaining that that same Lakshmi Devi is Radhika in order to heighten the experience of rasa, exchange of rasa, madhurya rasa. This is far, far, far superior to anything that is there in Vaikuntha. So, but he's saying here that unless one follows in the footsteps, comes under the anugatya of Radha and her expansions, the gopis, who are the repositories of all these transcendentally blissful, romantic sentiments, unless one does, then it is impossible to relish Krishna's sweet qualities. So, and then it is told, after mentioning this, Mahaprabhu says, what are those sweet qualities? Those virtues which are particularly inspiring for the romantic mood of love. That's not there in Lord Narayan. But in Krishna, it is there unlimitedly. And the gopis are the ones who inspire that and who facilitate that. So unless one follows in the footsteps of the gopis, no one can enter. No one can enter into that association with Krishna. Now, Mahaprabhu says the reason for Lakshmi Devi's failure of what? Yes. The reason for Lakshmi Devi's failure is that she did not follow in the gopis' footsteps. But she continued to perform her austerities in the mood of awe and reverence, which is her constant, eternal swarup, right? And as a result, she repeatedly found herself in the company of Narayan, and never in that of Krishna. So by way of contrast, there's the example of the Shrutis. What are the Shrutis? Personified Vedas. These Shrutis, they followed the gopis in Rag Marg, the pathway of spontaneous devotion that is there in Vrindavan. So they followed. Lakshmi Devi could not, but they did. They followed the gopis in the Rag Marg, and so ultimately they were able to achieve Krishna's service in the, they use the term erotic mood. But I don't like to use that term. That's not appropriate in these contexts. So in the conjugal mood. Because that word, it may be used properly in certain contexts. But unfortunately, the jivas of the Kali Yuga are so that word, boom, contaminated thoughts come. So, to go be re-edited, because two people who later distanced themselves from Gurudev and left their sannyas, who were edited for different words, were unsavory, you see. And it was not necessary. But they were thinking, oh, we will be very words. But no, you use it appropriately. So, Mahaprabhu is telling. So, by way of contrast, the Shrutis followed the gopis. Not. And they followed the gopis in the Rag Marg. You know what Rag Marg means? What means?
The path of God, emotion, the emotional devotion.
All devotion is emotional. What does Rag mean? You cannot say that a person in the Vaidhi devotional service is on the path of Rag because he feels some emotion in the kirtan. We always feel emotions. Let's specify this now so that we understand what is Rag, what is Rag Marg. Can you tell?
Spontaneous.
Explain Rag Marg. What is Rag and what is Rag Marg?
There arises the affection, the sentiment that arises naturally and to one's object of affection, and that's the path of the marg, the path of spontaneous devotion.
But a mother's has automatic, spontaneous emotion for her child. What you just told can apply to any ordinary mother in this world or other relationships as well. Now we have to get specific here. When we discuss the word rag, we should understand what we're talking about. This is explained by Srila Rupa Goswami. And it's very, in the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada very clearly has given all those chapters from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu specifying what is rag, and our Gurudev has given Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu and very carefully explained what is rag. So let's get that down here and now, tonight. Yes.
The mood of the Braj is the attachment that they actually have to Krishna.
Explain that a little bit more.
So the Brajvasis spontaneously, they have, without a break, they have particular moods, particular to their Braj Ras. And it's that Ras which gets transferred to the aspiring devotee in Bhakti life, taking the path that he follows the mood of a particular associate of Krishna.
So who is the object of all of these different Brijbasis, rag? Who is the object?
Sri Nandana.
Yeah, only. There is no other. And their rag is completely, spontaneously natural. It can never, ever be changed. So that's why all the eternal associates of Krishna in his eternal planet, Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, they are all called Rag Atmik Jan. Say that. Rag Atmik Jan. What does Jan mean? Huh? Yes. Those people who are Krishna's own family. They're called Rag Atmik Jan. Sometimes Gurudev would not even refer to them by the word devotees. But they are. They're the highest devotees. But they have automatic, spontaneous love for Krishna. And that's why the word rag is used. So when we say rag marg, marg means the pathway. What pathway? The pathway which follows the rag of those eternal associates. This is very important to understand. There is no such thing as rag anuga bhakti without reference to the eternal associates of Radha and Krishna, because rag anuga, the word anuga means to follow. So what are you following? What is the devotee who's practicing rag anuga bhakti following? He is following the rag of a particular associate for Krishna, of the 5 rasas.
As one of the aspects of an uncontrollable nature, is it like the Brajvasis they can't control it?
Well, they can control. They automatically have this overflowing rag for Krishna.
So it's uncontrollable.
Give you an example. Well, I don't know if you want to call it
I
uncontrollable.
heard someone refer to it that way. So
Yeah,
I'm
but
not sure if
let's get the analysis proper. Not to use unnecessary examples. We should understand. One example is when Krishna expanded himself as all the cowherd boys and the calves, when Lord Brahma made his attempt to steal the calves and the cowherd boys. We won't get into that pastime because actually he didn't steal them. He only stole another Maya forms. Because how can he steal the eternal associates of the Lord? So there was another prakosht, Gurudev explained, and our Acharyas explained, that in another prakosht, another reality there in Goloka, that the cowherd boys were still going on with their pastime. So Gurudev said there were 3 different sets of cowherd boys, not 2. You ever heard that? There were 3. The other set is how Krishna expanded himself exactly as each and every cowherd boy. Every single detail, everything, he was exactly these cowherd boys and the calves. Unrecognizable by the mothers and by the mother cows, right? But what gave it away is that one day Balaram, who was not there on that day, And 1 year had gone by. Krishna was for 1 whole year expanding himself and going to the forest every day and coming back. And anyway, this gets really detailed. I'm starting to think of how Krishna got married to all the gopis during that time. They were all betrothed by Yogamaya, Purnamasi, and so forth. But here's the thing, here's the point. That those cowherd boys, when the parents, actually here's how it went. Lord Balaram was at the bottom of Govardhan Hill, and on the top of Govardhan Hill, the cowherd men were grazing. And also they were grazing the 1-year-old calves. But now they're cows, because after 1 year, they're no longer calves, they're cows, right? And when the cows, wait a minute, no. They were grazing, Krishna and the calves, the cowherd boys that were expansions of Krishna, and the calves, which were expansions of Krishna, were at the bottom of Govardhan Hill. And Balaram was watching that when the cows saw their calves at the bottom, and they were 1 year old, generally the cows, they'll have another calf by that time, a younger, newer calf, and they're not as much overwhelmed with their 1 year old calves. But in this case, it was a very unusual thing that the cows became uncontrolled in their emotion, and they started to run down the hill, like really fast to go. And the cowherd men were annoyed that the cows were getting away, and they went running down the hill after the cows. But when the cows saw their calves, they began to lick their calves, and they were completely overwhelmed with affection. And then when the cowherd men saw their sons, the cowherd boys, they were overwhelmed with affection. And then Balaram knew, he said, this is not the usual way. This is how the Brijbasis love Krishna. So something is going on here. Then he approached Krishna. And he says, well, why is this happening like this? Jai Shri Guru Garam Garam Gandharvi Kijani Shri Radha Govinda Ji Kijani. So he inquired from Krishna because he was not there on that day. He was kept back because it was his birthday, something like that. And so then Krishna told Balaram, oh, this is what happened. Brahma tried to do this, so I have become like this. So one of the things from this is that even Balaram, who's non-different than Krishna, if Krishna doesn't want him to know something, he also cannot know it. You see, the supremacy of Krishna. So in this case, this is rag. Because in Vrindavan, all the people of Vrindavan, all the gopas, the elderly gopas and gopis, and they have their children, and they love one another. They have praying for one another, okay? But not like they're praying for Krishna. This is the unique thing about Vrindavan, is that everyone loves Krishna more than they love anyone or even their own self. He is the supreme object of their love. And that's why they're called what? Rag Atmik Jan.
That was what I was referring to, the uncontrollable nature, like the gopis.
Okay, yeah, in that
the
case.
Gopis are not able to stay at home, they have to go to the...
That overflowing, yeah, but these are all symptoms of other things as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, is that maybe this is...
They're symptoms, these are all higher topics of all the different developments of ecstatic love and all the different symptoms and vyavichari bhavs and so many different terms, yeah.
Srila Rupa Goswami writes about Narayan having 60 qualities and Krishna having 4 special qualities.
Right.
Is that ever stated in any shastra before Rupa Goswami wrote it?
Well, we can examine that in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But see, one thing is, where did Rupa Goswami get this information from?
Mahaprabhu.
Yes, directly. what he wrote in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu directly he got from Mahaprabhu. You can read that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the section of Rupa Siksha, Sanatan Siksha, how Mahaprabhu is explaining to him Krishna has 64 qualities. So it's come even from what to speak of other Shastras, it's come from Mahaprabhu.
So
Mahaprabhu is revealing something that was never understood before.
my question is, he's
Yeah.
now going to enlighten Katha with this idea
Yeah.
of speciality of Krishna,
Right.
something that he might not have known before from his study of Shastra. Curious.
Okay, it may be that it's there, stated in Puranas and here and there, but yeah, I mean, this is the whole point is that Venkatavata is about to awaken by Mahaprabhu's mercy to the highest understanding that Mahaprabhu has come to bring to this world, and which if anyone embraces what Mahaprabhu is teaching, they will no longer adhere to their previous understanding. That's why even Lord Nityananda has told in the Navadvip Mahatmya when he was taking Jiva Goswami to tour all the 9 islands, and he explained that on the island of Rudradvip, there all the 4 Vaishnava acharyas, they came at the planet. They each had the opportunity to come to Navadvip. And when they came to Navadvip, Mahaprabhu revealed to them his golden eternal form as Gauranga, and he told them that you are my very dear devotee, and I want that you will preach this particular pathway of understanding Vedanta Sutra, and make your special commentary. But Lord Nityananda explained that in the future, all 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas would flow like rivers into the one river of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu's Siddhanta. They would all embrace.
But before Mahaprabhu, this mood of Utula Ras, this highest Ras to Sri Krishna was not available. So previous to that, and those lines of Vaishnavacharyas is what is the highest mood that was available?
Well, they had the 5 rasas. That's there in Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam appeared thousands of years before the 4 Vaishnavacharyas appeared. Okay, they all appeared within the last, 1,000 years or so?
1200.
Yeah, 1200. They did not have any higher understanding of Madhurya Rasa than what they could determine from the Bhagavatam. They did not understand the superiority of Srimati Radhika and the gopis particularly, and they also understood that their Madhurya Rasa, Krishna also expressed that in his Mathura and Dwarka Leelas, right? But only through Mahaprabhu was like that song that we sing, Yadi Gauranga Nahito, Tabe ki hoitu, Kemone Dorito De, Radhara Mahima Prema Rasa Sima, Jagate Janato Ke. Who in this whole Jagat, in this whole universe, would have understood if Gauranga Mahaprabhu had not come to this world? Who would have understood the Radhara? The Mahima means the greatness of Srimati Radhika's Prema Rasa Sima. Sima means the ultimate borderline, the ultimate end of her prem. Radhara Mahima Prem Rasa Sima. That her glory, her great glory is that she is the ultimate end of all prem. And others did not understand that. Prior to the appearance of Mahaprabhu, they did not understand the mood of the Braja Gopis. The next verse in that song also tells that. They did not understand the sweetness of Vrindavan. All these things were not clearly understood prior to Mahaprabhu's coming.
Question. What about the Kumara Sampradaya and Nimbaditya Acharya? Don't they accept Radharani? And don't they also expect Gopi?
But not in the same way. They did not understand Parakiya Bhav properly, not fully. Something was there. Just like before Mahaprabhu appeared, Sri Madhavendra Puripad. He is said to be the Prem Ankur, the sprout from which this Prem that Mahaprabhu is coming into this world to give began in him. And what were the feelings? Intense separation mood. He is very famous for expressing the moods of Srimati Radhika in her separation when Krishna left for Mathura. Mathura Natha Padava Lokshase. So, we have to understand that prior to Mahaprabhu, there was some awareness, but it may have also been from the previous kalpa of Lord Brahma, because the four Kumaras, they also are living long periods of time. Yes. So let's go on. You have one more point? No.
No.
Okay. Now, by way of contrast, the Shrutis followed the gopis in the Rag Marg. That's where we took off on this discussion, from the point of Rag Marg. So they followed the mood of the gopis in Rag Marg. Who followed? The Shrutis, the personified Vedic literatures, Shrutis. And so they were ultimately able to achieve Krishna's service in the conjugal mood. Now, as long as one continues, this is Mahaprabhu still telling this to Venkatabhatta. He's saying, as long as one continues to think of Krishna in majestic terms, as Lord and Creator of the universe, then one cannot possibly worship in the spirit of Raga Nuga Bhakti. What's the point that he just made, Mahaprabhu? As long as what?
There's any dint of Aishwarya mood, not possible.
Meaning, understanding the Lord in terms of what?
Majestic.
As the Creator. As the Creator of the universe. So then one cannot possibly worship in the spirit of Raga Anuga Bhakti. So this is why our Gurudev had a very special, very sweet thing that he used to say. He says, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, my Swamiji, he came to teach everyone that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And you can really, when you listen to all of Prabhupada's lectures, it is the main theme continually, non-stop. Krishna is the Supreme. He gave Gita, he gave Bhagavata, he gave everything to teach everyone that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like Mahaprabhu now is trying to tell Venkatabhatta, okay? So Prabhupada came to prove this to the entire world, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Gurudev said, but he has instructed me that now, at this time, I should come and I should tell all of you that now you should forget that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You see? And this is true. This is because without that, no one can enter into Rag Marg. So how then is it that an Acharya is preaching heavy Siddhanta, but yet he's in the Rag Marg? You understand my question?
How is it that
If he has full awareness of the majesty and createdness of spring, how can he not be aware of it? And be in the
Because is he in the path of Rag Marg Bhakti?
Yes.
Has he achieved the perfection of that path? But yet he's preaching all Siddhanta, that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So what do you say?
I was just listening to a class Nischinti was playing in Prabhupada. This was in the 60s, maybe in Los Angeles. And Prabhupada was saying, somebody asked a question about Radha, and he said, you cannot possibly understand Radha unless you understand Krishna first. And Krishna explains who he is in Bhagavad Gita.
Right.
That you should learn first,
Yes.
and then you can know.
Right. Yes. So, but then how is it that somebody who's completely absorbed internally in the sweet moods of Braj, but externally they're playing the role of an acharya, to painstakingly tell every disciple from every single angle of vision all of this tattva siddhanta. Tattva siddhanta. How is it?
It's that rare person who, as Uttama Bhagavat, who will come down to the platform of Madhyam just to preach.
But what happened to that platform that he came down from?
Well, he's still there.
Oh, well then why did you say he came down?
Because externally he is engaged in a preaching mission.
Yes. Yes. So, now Mahaprabhu continues and he says, Krishna, very careful. Are you ready to hear this one extraordinary characteristic that Krishna has?
Yes.
By his sweetness, he attracts the minds of the entire world. And by taking on the mood of the Braja Gopis, then one can attain to his lotus feet. So, Krishna has this quality of sweetness by which he attracts the entire world. And by taking on the mood of the Braja Gopis, then one can attain to his lotus feet. The people of Braja have no idea that Krishna is the Lord and the creator of the universe. Some think of him as their son. They even tie him to a mortar, while others take him to be their friend and they climb on his shoulders. They only know him as the son of Nanda, whereas in the attitude of awe and reverence, the devotee does not have a concept of such a relationship to him. So, the people of Braja, they only know him. They only know Krishna as the son of Nanda Maharaj. Whereas in the attitude of awe and reverence, the devotee does not have a concept of such a relationship to him. Both at the same time. Mutually exclusive. Then he says, one who takes the attitude of a resident of Braja will attain Krishna as the son of the king of Braja in Vrindavan. This is all being quoted from Mahaprabhu's conversation in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, 5 shlokas. So, he goes on, and he says, when the gopis, Mahaprabhu is telling to Venkata Bhatta, when the gopis, who are the objects of my worship, Mahaprabhu is telling, the gopis are the objects of my worship. When they were abandoned by Krishna in the rasa dance, they began to cry in the intensity of their distress at not seeing him. Krishna came to them in the form of Narayan, but the gopis simply paid their obeisances and moved on in search of Krishna, showing absolutely no interest in him as a lover. And when Radharani stood before the disguised Krishna, however, he could not maintain the four-armed form, but once again appeared in his form as the holder of the flute. Such is the power of Radharani's love. Then he goes on and says, Nanda Nandan Krishna is the avatari. You know the word avatari?
He explained it as the source of all avatars.
That's right. So he's saying, Mahaprabhu is now telling him straight on to Venkata, Nanda Nandan Krishna. Nanda Nandan means what?
Son of Nanda.
The son of Nanda Maharaj. Nanda Nanda. He is the avatari. He is the source of all incarnations. Narayan, Rama, Nrsimha, etc. They're all his incarnations and expansions. Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And from his being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, other forms of Godhead are also given the appellation of Bhagavan. You remember the day that we had our Bhagavan discussion class? Meaning of Bhagavan? So, here it's told that because from the fact that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore all other forms of Godhead, they have this appellation of being Bhagavan. He alone, however, can be called the Swayam Bhagavan. They cannot be called. Only Krishna can be called Swayam Bhagavan. Swayam means himself, right? Bhagavan himself. The Supreme Bhagavan, Param Bhagavan, or the Primeval Lord. And then, in order to back this up, Mahaprabhu quotes the Srimad Bhagavatam, in which this verse mentions Krishna as the Swayam Bhagavan. Very important verse. 3rd chapter of the 1st canto, verse number 28. It's at the end of the chapter in which Sutta Goswami is now explaining all the different forms, major different forms of expansions of Bhagavan. But when he comes to the Krishna, then he says the following. Pay close attention to this verse. Ete cham sakala pungsas Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That's the first line. What does that mean? Ete cha amsa kala pungsa. In other words, I have now just told in this chapter all the different forms of the incarnations of Godhead. They're called amshas and kalas. Amsha means portions, part, portions, amsha. And kala means plenary portions. That means portions of the portion. All of these incarnations previously mentioned of the Lord are either plenary or partial expansions. Then he says, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Very important, this line. Everyone say, Krishnastu, Krishnastu, Bhagavan Swayam. Bhagavan Swayam. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Everyone say it. Again, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That means the word tu, you'll get to know if you read the synonyms in Sanskrit, it's used very often. It means, in this context, it means however, or the word. These are all incarnations, amshas and kalas, parts and plenary parts. But Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is not in that category. He is Bhagavan Swayam. This is the most authoritative statement in the Srimad Bhagavatam, stating right in the very beginning that all the incarnations that you're going to hear about of Bhagavan, how he appears in this universe and multiple universes over unlimited time, in thousands and millions of unlimited incarnations, they're all expansions. They're all parts and plenary parts of Krishna. Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Mahaprabhu is quoting this to Venkatabhatta. Because Venkatabhatta is a Vaishnava. And he knows Srimad Bhagavatam. So now Mahaprabhu is educating him. And then he's saying here, the rest of this verse is talking about Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. He says, the rest of the verse is telling that he, Krishna, and his expansions, they appear in every age. Yuge Yuge means in every yuga, right? What do they come for? To bring joy to this world when they are tormented by the enemies of the demigods. Indra Ari. Ari means enemy. Indrari Vyakulam. when they had become very distressed, because Indra and the other demigods are being attacked, demons. So, Mridayanta Yuge Yuge, they come yuga after yuga to bring joy. That's the purpose of all these incarnations. So now, through the power of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's merciful association, Venkata Bhatta, his brother Prabodhananda Saraswati, his son Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and all the other members of his family, they were inspired to give up the worship of Lakshmi Narayan. And they became engaged in the exclusive devotional service of Radha and Krishna. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami took initiation from his uncle, Tridandi Yati Srimad Prabodhananda Saraswati. And proof of this is found in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which we went over the other day, how Gopal Bhatta Goswami is mentioning his uncle Prabodhananda Saraswati as his guru. So, Gopal Bhatta's parents, they were very fortunate, for they surrendered themselves, life and soul, to the feet of Lord Chaitanya. And they ordered their son to go to Vrindavan before they left this world. They were absorbed in meditation on the Lord as they left this world. And at that time, Vrindavan. Gopal traveled directly to Vrindavan, where he met with who? And Rupa Goswami. Yes. So, Gopal Bhatta comes to Vrindavan. When Gopal arrived in Vrindavan, Rupa and Sanatan wrote to Mahaprabhu to tell him that Gopal Bhatta had arrived in Vrindavan. The Lord was overjoyed, and immediately he wrote back telling them to affectionately take care of him as though he were their own younger brother. So Srila Sanatana Goswami, he compiled the Hari Bhakti Vilas, and he published it in Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami's name. Because Gopal Bhatta Goswami assisted as editor of that great work. Rupa Goswami considered Gopal to be as dear to him as his own life. And he engaged him in the deity worship of Radha Raman. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami became one of the 6 Goswamis, but he always kept an attitude of meekness and humility. And thus when Krishnadas Kaviraj approached him for permission to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he granted it, but under the condition that he not write about him. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami could not go against the order of Gopal Bhatta, and thus he did nothing more than mention his name. And Sri Jiva Goswami, he writes in the introduction of the Sat Sandarbha that he wrote, he mentions in the introduction to the Sat Sandarbha that he wrote it on the basis of an earlier text by Gopal Bhatta. So imagine, like, Sat Sandarbha. And he based on an earlier text written by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Like, this is the ultimate description of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. The Sat Sandarbhas, 6 different Sandarbhas. Sandarbhas means thesis. So this is the most amazing philosophical presentation written by Jiva Goswami in order to protect the Siddhantic integrity of all of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu philosophy and all the writings of the other 6 Goswamis. He protected them by writing the Sat Sandarbhas.
Is it in English?
Yes, we have.
What was the other one you were mentioning too that was in English that you were going to show me? You were going to look it up again. Is that the same one?
You mean in this class I'm mentioning?
Not this class, it was another class.
Well, then you have to tell me, because I don't know.
I didn't write it down. I'm going to write this one down.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe Sarvabhauma Shataka. Yeah. That's very short. That's only 100 verses. but this is very voluminous.
It's very difficult to. It's not easy reading.
You have to have a basis in Siddhanta to try to begin to study that. That's a later postgraduate study, philosophical study. So the point that's being made here is that, Gopal Bhatta Goswami made incredibly great contributions to the literatures of the Goswamis. And he also wrote a book called Sat Kriya Sar Deepika. Sat Kriya Sar Deepika. It is translated as the light on the essential. Sat Kriya. So these are the different transcendental rituals that are followed by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas for all the various stages of life and the different important ceremonies that must be performed for purification. And that book is the basis that is used in the Gaudiya Mat. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur established that book, Sat Kriya Sar Deepika, it has all the mantras for all the different ceremonies of initiation, of sannyas, of birth ceremonies and haircutting ceremonies and so forth. So that's there in the Sat Kriya Sar Deepika. And so Gopal Bhatta Goswami also gave great joy to the community of devotees by writing a commentary on Bilva Mangal Thakur's Krishna Karanamrita. Very high Rasik literature. Mahaprabhu would relish all these beautiful slokas written by Bilva Mangal Thakur. So amongst his disciples, Gopal Bhatta Goswami's disciples were who? Yes. Amongst his disciples were Srinivasacharya and Sri Gopinath Pujari. The following story is told about Gopinath Pujari becoming Gopal Bhatta's disciple. One day, Gopal Bhatta went to visit the town of Saharanapura, not far from Haridwar. And on that occasion, a simple, devoted Brahmin engaged in his service in a most unpretentious manner. He had no children, but he desired to have a son. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami knew the desire of the Brahmin, and he blessed him that he would have a devotionally minded male child. The Brahmin promised Gopal Bhatta that he would give him his first son to be his servant and disciple. This son was Gopinath Pujari. It is said that Mahaprabhu had such affection for Gopal Bhatta that he sent him his own belt and his kopin, as well as a wooden seat which he had used. These items are still worshipped in the Radha Ramana temple by the current Sevites. So now the story about the appearance of Sri Radha Raman. We're getting near the end here. Yeah, this is the last section. When Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami was visiting centers of northern India, he found a Shalagram Shila on the banks of the Gandaki River. This is the river in the Himalayas that some devotees have actually gone there. It's a tremendously arduous journey to get there. But that's where all the Shalagram Shilas come from, that river. And the way that they get the Shilas is that while they're standing in the water of that river and they reach down to the bottom to touch any stone there, they chant aloud a particular name of Vishnu, and then they bring the stone out, and that's Shalagram. Direct incarnation of Vishnu, Shalagram Shila. We have one on the altar here. So, Gopal Bhatta Goswami went there. He found the Shalagram Shila on the banks of the Gandaki River. So he took the worshipable stone and he carried it with him wherever he went, treating it as Vrajendra Nandan Krishna himself. One day he thought that he would like to worship the Lord in a deity form so that he could expand his service. And on the very next day, he found that the Shalagram Shila had transformed itself into Radha Raman to fulfill the wish of his devotee. This deity stands alone without any form of Radha standing by his side. Instead, as a symbol of Radharani, a silver crown is placed on his left side. The story is also told in the following way. It is said that Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami used to daily worship 12 shalagrams. So there's two different versions of the story. And he developed a desire to serve the Lord in the form of a deity, thinking that in this way he would be able to worship him in a much better way. So the Lord, within his heart, he knew his feelings. And through a rich merchant, he had many beautiful items used in the worship of the deity, such as ornaments and clothes, sent to him. Gopal began to worry that all these beautiful objects would be wasted, because there was no way that he could use them unless he had a deity in human form. That night, he put the shalagrams to rest, and in the morning he saw that one of them had been transformed into the Radha Raman deity. And when Rupa and Sanatan heard that Krishna had so mercifully appeared to Gopal Bhatta, they immediately came with the other devotees for darshan, and when they saw him, they were ecstatic with love. The annual festival commemorating Radha Raman's appearance when he is bathed publicly takes place on the full moon day of Vaishak. The temple is considered one of the most important in Vrindavan. So this deity, Srila Gurudev tells in his Braj Mandala Parikrama book, and it's also told Srila Bharti Maharaj, I've heard it a number of times, that, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they worship the three forms of Krishna. The three forms of Krishna in Vrindavan, which is Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinath. Who are they?
Madan Mohan, Govinda, Gopinath.
Yes. So these three represent the three topic subject matters of Vedic knowledge called what? Sambandha.
Avideya, Prayojan.
Yes. What is Sambandha?
Knowledge and relationship.
What is Avideya? The what? Avideya means the process. First is Sambandha. The Vedas are telling that we have a relationship with the Supreme Lord. And we have this relationship eternally. And in the world, all of these tattvas are there in the Sambandha tattva. Avideya, what activities do you perform in order to establish and reconnect in that relationship? And prayojan means what is the ultimate attainment in that relationship, which means prem. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu announced this. Prema Pumarta Mahan. That prem is the supreme goal of every living entity. Prem. There's no higher attainment beyond prem. And he also called prem Pancha Purushartha. Means the fifth goal. Because in the Vedic literatures there is the four goals of what? Dharma, Artha, Kam, Moksha. But the fifth goal is prem. Mahaprabhu introduced this. So, this deity of Radharaman, it is told that one form of Krishna, you've all seen Radharaman, at least in photos if you haven't gone there. So Radharaman is extremely beautiful, completely captivating. And he's standing in the threefold bending form of Shyamasundar, his eternal Tribhanga Lalita form. Tribhanga means curved in three places. So actually Radharaman is representing all three deities. The deity establishes our sambandha, our relationship, is his lotus feet, Madan Mohan. and the deity of Govinda, who establishes the process of Shuddha Bhakti. That deity has manifested in the heart, the chest of Radharaman. And the deity of Gopinath, who is the Lord of the Gopis, and the Gopis are his Lord, that ultimate form of the highest attainment of relationship in Gopi Prem, that of Gopinath. So that form is the smiling face of Radharaman. So all three deities you have darshan of when you see. And Radharaman is the only deity of all the original deities that were installed in Vrindavan, Braj Mandala, after Krishna disappeared. All the original deities which were installed 5,000 years ago, like the original Govinda, Gopinath, and Madan Mohan, and others. So all of those deities had left Vrindavan when the Muslims attacked. Only Radharaman never left. He always stayed. So he is the self-manifested deity of Krishna in Vrindavan, and he is very much loved by all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami manifested him in this world. Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami ended his earthly pastimes on the Krishna Panchami of Asar of 1507 of the Shaka era, means 1585 AD. So he was 85 years old or 82 years old, according to. His Samadhi temple is behind the current Radharaman temple. You can go there. And by reading Srinivasacharya's hymn to the 6 Goswamis, Sad Goswami Asakam, we can understand their glories. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami Pada Ki Jai, Shri Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Jai Shri Radharaman Jiu Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Govinda Jiu Ki Jai, Shri Gaur Artik Radha Krishna Jugal Arti Ki Jai. Vancha Kalpataruvascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namo.
Padmanabha Maharaj ki jai.
Gurudev Jai Prabhupada. We means everyone, the whole family. Mother, father, everyone. 1 week. Which day coming back?
Probably Sunday of next week, I'm thinking.
Sunday of next week. What's today?
Today's Friday. No, Thursday.
Thursday. So you're going to be gone 10 days. About 10 days. Okay, well, you'll just barely make it back in time for Srila Sri Maharaj. Oh, okay. All right. We'll be waiting for you to return. We'll just chant all together. Jana Vitata Bani Jagamana Loba Dakini Taichan Vame Gadadhara Nikate Advaita Shri Vasasatratara Vasi Ratna Simhasani Aloti Korena Brahma Adideva Jai Jadishu Basangararti ki Jai Jai Nitilila Kavishtom Vishnupad Paramahansa Statarasata Sri Srila Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Jai Nitilila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansa Statarasata Sri Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki Jai Jai Nitilila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansa Statarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhara Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj. Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Bhakti Valvatirtha Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansa Statarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Pradyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Dayata Madhav Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Nityalila Pravishtom Vishnupad Paramahansa Statarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Mahabhagavad Srila Bharti Shardas Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Sri Srila Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki Jai. Vaishnav Sarvam Sri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki Jai. Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga ki Jai. Sri Gaudi Vedanta Chari Baladevi Vibhushan Prabhu ki Jai. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki Jai. Srila Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Trai ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu ki Jai. Sri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Sada Goswami Prabhu ki Jai. Srila Sarup Damodar Roy Ramananda Adi Gauri Parsada Vrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Dhama ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dhama ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dvadashavanatmaka Shri Braj Mandala Dhama ki Jai. Shri Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Yamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Radha Gopinath Radha Madan Mohan Jiu ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Radha Shyama Sundar Radha Raman Radha Damodar Jiu ki Jai. Srimati Lalita Vishaka Adi Ashtasaki Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Rupa Manjari Rati Manjari Adi Manjari Vrinda ki Jai. Shri Ananga Manjari ki Jai. Shri Gopala Bhatta Goswami Pada ki Jai. Srimati Brinda Devi ki Jai. Srimati Purnamasi Yogamaya Devi ki Jai. Shri Gopishwar Mahadeva ki Jai. Sarva Bhishta Pradata Giriraj Govardhan ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Grantaraj Shri Chaitanya Charitamritam ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakrajil ki jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Kshetra Dham ki jai. Jai Bhakti Vigna Vinashana Shri Nishringa Dev ki jai. Bhakta Prabhu Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Charodam Charo Sampradaya Charo Acharya ki jai. Akaramat Raj Shri Chaitanya Mat ki jai. Aur Ananya Shaka Mat Samuha ki jai. Shri Vishva Vaishnava Raj Sabha ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Tribhuvana Pavana Harinam Sankirtana ki jai. Tribhuvana Mangala Harinama Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra ki jai. Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki jai. Shri Nityananda Mahajana ki jai. Shri Panchatattva ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. We can sing together. Namaste Narashinhaya. Jai Shrimati Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Om Vrindai Tulsi Nittai Jai Krishna Vasya Krishna Bhakti Kari Devi Satyanamai Namo
Namo Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namo Radha Krishna Nitya Seva Veya Vilashi Yeto Manasana Shri Krishna Seva Viva Kori Kotare Vrindavan Vasi Chomara Charani
Krishna Bhakti Praditi Satyavatani Vancha Pradipurasya Krishna Sivaya Patinam Bhavati See you next time. Hare Krishna.